This past week, my band Daryl Saves Lives had the opportunity to play a kind of strange show. It was a Bands is Bands Halloween show, and we got to play as Van Halen. Now, Van Halen is a super important band to me, and the chance to play Eddie's guitar parts is a fun but also daunting challenge. Preparing for this show and performing the show itself was a ton of fun, but during that time I was really thinking about Van Halen's impact on me. So today I'm going to talk about what Van Halen means to me, and then afterwards I'm going to talk about the show I played and what kind of preparation went into it. But first, welcome. My name's Cole, but you can call me Cole G. I like telling stories about my experiences in music. If that sounds interesting to you, please consider subscribing. It really helps the channel out a lot. I am thoroughly convinced that my whole life would be completely different had I not heard Van Halen at a young age. I know that's a really bold statement to say, but hear me out. When I was around 2 or 3 years old, my dad would show me a music video compilation that he recorded onto a VHS from Much Music. For those who don't know, Much Music was basically Canada's MTV. This VHS he had recorded featured a ton of new wave artists that also really inspired me later on, such as Love and Rockets and Haircut 100. However, there was one song and one video in particular that I absolutely loved, and that was Van Halen's Jump. Though I don't remember initially what hit me more, the song or the video, I remember watching this guitarist in the video smiling, using 2 hands on the guitar neck, and having this really cool red, white, and black striped guitar. Whatever it was, I was hooked for life. I loved that song so much. My dad even made a video of me playing my fake plastic guitar to the song and sent it to my whole family. As the year went on and my dad showed me more music, it became apparent that that plastic guitar wasn't going to be cutting it anymore. I told my parents at 3 years old that I was going to become a professional musician when I was older, and I asked them for a guitar for my birthday, and they bought me one. At 4 years old, I got my first guitar, and 21 years later, I'm still playing guitar and I pay my bills with music, which honestly is super sick. I think little Cole G would be proud of me. Also on my 4th birthday, I got my first CD, and it was Van Halen's Best of Both Worlds Greatest Hits compilation from my Auntie Brenda. So shout out Auntie Brenda. This CD introduced me to a ton of Van Halen songs, and from that moment forward, I was a huge fan of the band. As I grew up, I continued to find myself obsessing over Eddie Van Halen's guitar playing. I bought every single magazine I could that had Eddie Van Halen in it, and I slowly started getting more and more Van Halen merchandise. And of course, I watched every interview with him. I watched all the live performances I could find. I watched everything. I was obsessed with them. The only thing I wasn't able to do was see Van Halen live, which still kind of pains me, but I'm thankful that I at least had the music. Now let's talk about the Bands is Bands show. So how does one approach a show like this? To me, there's 3 things: practice, preparation, and a good headspace. Practice-wise, I had a pretty good advantage with this show because I actually played a Bands is Bands Van Halen show around 2 or 3 years ago, so a lot of the songs on the set list I already knew, which was really nice because I just had to focus on relearning the parts and getting the form down again, which wasn't too bad. Then 2 other songs on the set list were You Really Got Me and Runnin' With the Devil, which I had been playing in my basement for probably 10-15 years at this point, and I had taught to so many students that I kind of knew the song already, which was super nice. So practice-wise, I was doing pretty good. The only songs I was concerned about was Hot for Teacher, because I learned the song the wrong way years ago, and that completely messed me up going into this show, trying to learn it the right way. And then just relearning parts for Eruption, because that's just kind of a scary song to play. For the last Van Halen show, I probably had about 2 months to prepare for it, but then the show got delayed, so I basically had about 5 months to prepare for it all in all. This one I had 1 month to prepare for it, and that was it. Thankfully, as I mentioned before, a lot of the songs from the set list were from that last show, so I already had learned them and put hours upon hours into them learning it for that show, so this one was a lot easier to do. We had about 4 or 5 quick practices as a band, and that was it. Within a month, we were on the stage. When I played my first Van Halen Bands is Bands show, I feel like I approached it wrong. I was so obsessive with trying to get every single minute detail of Eddie Van Halen's playing down. I was probably spending 3 to 4 hours every single day trying to get all the pick scratches, all the tiny little details that honestly 99.5% of the audience wouldn't even realize was missing if it wasn't there. After the first Bands is Bands show, I kind of had a realization. There is only one Eddie Van Halen, and that was Eddie Van Halen. I'm just Cole playing Eddie Van Halen's parts, so it doesn't need to be 150% accurate. I also realized Eddie Van Halen played everything a little bit differently live all the time. He'd add different fills in, he'd try different things. So I thought it'd be cool for me to try different things as well. With all of this in mind, it made the preparations for this show way less stressful, and I actually found myself looking forward to the show and not being scared of playing it and scared of making the little mistake of not doing a little pick scratch or anything. It was more of a relaxing experience. And also, it was a Halloween Bands Band show. Everyone in the audience was going to be drunk anyways. They wouldn't know the difference. When I was preparing for this show, my favorite part was finding the perfect Kemper profile of the brown sound. When I got the Kemper, it came with a ton of different paid profiles, and one of the ones that I had was the Top Jimmy Brown sound pack. When I first tried these sounds out, I was blown away. They sounded so good, and they actually sounded so close to Van Halen. For the last performance, I just used the 5150 sound. I didn't know I had this pack, but when I found it, it was the perfect sound. But then I had to figure out how to make the horn sound for Runnin' with the Devil, which was so much fun. What I did for the car horn sound was basically use a whammy effect in my Kemper and use my expression pedal to basically lower the pitch just like the song does. It actually turned out way better than I thought it would, and I put a ton of reverb and delay on it just so it would sound huge live. I probably overdid it for the live performance, honestly, but in my studio it sounded really good. Finally, after a month of preparation, on October 25th, I played the show, and it went really great. I had so much fun playing this show, as it's always fun to play music with your good friends, I find. And it was just such a really great, rewarding experience. I don't typically get nervous for shows, but I definitely felt a bit nervous going into this show and knowing that Eruption was coming up in like 4 songs. But once Eruption came, like all my nerves were gone. It felt really good, and I think I did a pretty good job with it, and I was pretty proud of myself. Also, the other guys in Daryl Saves Lives killed it, especially David, who nailed the intro for Hot for Teacher. He did such a good job, it's insane. So huge shout out to the guys in Daryl Saves Lives. Thank you for playing this show. I really appreciate it a lot. You guys are awesome. After the final notes of Hot for Teacher rang out and the show was over, it just felt really great, and I was so happy. It was really a great experience, and I really enjoyed doing it so much. I don't know if we'll ever do a Bands as Van Halen again, but to be able to do it was really sweet, and especially with my good friends. But that's it. Now you know what Van Halen means to me, and what my experiences were playing the Bands as Band show. But now, of course, I want to hear from you. What does Van Halen mean to you? Who is your favorite artist, and what do they mean to you? Are you a Van Halen fan or a Van Hagar fan? Let me know in the comments down below, and let's talk about it. But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking it and subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a lot. Thank you so much again for watching this. I'm Cole G, and I'll see you in the next one.